Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to a special episode number 31 of the Giant Zone. As we've been telling you, we've got two podcasters from the Beard Watch podcast, which is a very big Carolina Panthers podcast. So, of course, let's get right into this. Of course, you've got your co-host, Steve the Banker, and you've got yours truly, Fly Guy Carl. And I want to welcome from the Beards Watch podcast, we've got Jeeves down in the lower left corner, or my lower left. And we also got Jacob. So guys, welcome to the show. And again, we thank you so much for your time. So glad we can get together and do this. And we really look forward to kind of chopping it up with you tonight, guys.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you for having us. Glad Jeeves could join as well.
Sir.
So yeah, looking to chop it up and preview a little Panthers Giants coming up this weekend.
So guys, why don't you each give us a little background about yourselves? How long you guys have been Panthers fans and any special game day traditions you follow? We like to bring, when we have guests on the show, we like to kind of give a little background about them. And then also feel free to talk about your podcast if you want as well.
Yeah, so I'll start it off. I've been a Panthers fan since they came in the league. I think they came in 95. I was in kindergarten. My dad took me to the game when they actually played at Clemson. Went to a Panthers Cardinals game down there and got photos of that. So all the way through, I mean, I remember being a freshman in high school when they lost Super Bowl 38. And then just a couple years ago when they lost to the Broncos in Super Bowl 50. And I mean, ups and downs. I've seen the Jimmy Clausens play, the Cams play, everybody, the Tommy Maddoxes. You can go all kinds of places with it. And just a couple years ago, we started recording ourselves reaction videos, because we started doing it for Game of Thrones. Is how we kind of started our podcast and got a lot of views on YouTube with that. And we always have people over. Jeeves is one of them. A couple of our friends come over, my wife included, now kids come over, and we just record ourselves either being heartbroken, as this past Sunday happened with the Cade York field goal, or we've got a couple wins that we're happy about. But it's been a while since we've been happy about any wins, and we can dive into that later. So yeah, that's kind of Panther fan through and through, hundreds of jerseys. My basement, even though it's got a lot of Game of Thrones stuff, I've got plenty of Panther stuff as well, all over the place. But yeah, I mean, our podcast, as I alluded, it was the Beards Watch. If you watch Game of Thrones, kind of based off the Night's Watch. When we started it, me and another guy were kind of getting in trouble at work for being at each other's cubes, always talking about Game of Thrones or sports or, pop culture, this, that, and the third. And so we said we should start a podcast. We started it, and about 3 months in, 10, 15, 20 episodes, that guy decided to quit. We had a mutual disagreement. He quit. Jeeves was always on it, so Jeeves kind of stepped up. Another buddy of ours, Duval's on it. We get a whole bunch of different people, and we talk Thrones. Then obviously when Thrones went away, we would talk Panthers. We'll talk really anything and everything. We've had all different kinds of guests. We just did our 298th episode yesterday, and we broke down the most recent House of the Dragons episode, and we do all different kinds of fantasy games with Game of Thrones, with pick'em leagues, with Survivor, we talk, like I said, we will cover it all depending on the week, depending on the hot topic or even a low topic. We'll just shoot the breeze and drink some beers and just talk about stuff. But yeah, I mean, you can find our podcast, The Beards Watch, on all your podcast platforms. And then, of course, our YouTube, as I said, is They See Me Roland. And that's got our reaction videos to the Thrones episodes, House of Dragon, Panthers games. We do a Super Bowl reaction video, even though Panthers hadn't been in one in forever. And then we also, my wife and I, do brewery reviews. Anytime we travel somewhere, we like to review breweries. So we do that. We edit that up. We also play a Beerio Kart. So we throw a little, I don't know if you guys have ever played Beerio Karts. It's like Mario Kart on any of the Nintendo systems, but you have to drink a beer and finish it before all 3 laps are up. So we have some fun with that stuff. And then we just do all kind of crazy stuff. The basketball challenge, the tortilla. We try different drinks and stuff and post reviews on that as well. So it's kind of a variety channel with everything on our YouTube. But that's a little bit glimpse of me. I'll let Jeeves fill in for himself.
Nope. I'm not as big of a, wasn't a Panthers fan as long as Jacob has. I moved here from California in 2003. So I didn't see the heartbreak of the Panthers fans. But I've been a Panthers fan since probably about 05, 06. Been loving it ever since. And then it just drew me and Jake closer. as buddies. Went to the same high school together. Like he said, I go over there almost every Sunday to watch the Panthers games, any reaction videos that he's doing. I'm in a lot of the brewery reviews as the recorder. And I've gotten in front of the camera on some of them, in front of the camera on the burial carts, basketball challenges, like he said, on their YouTube channel. And ironically, the guy that we started it with was a Giants fan. So
Yeah, I forgot about that, G. I
yeah,
forgot
he
about that.
he was a Giants fan and come up there. But like Jake said, it didn't. Him and them two had a disagreement, but Jacob wanted to keep it rolling. So he asked me, he's like, "You want to keep it going?" I said, "Sure, let's do it." And we just, like Jake said, we talk about anything and everything, and we just keep it rolling on the Beards Watch.
So was the disagreement because he was a Giants fan?
No, I think the biggest disagreement came down to he didn't drink at all, any alcohol, and that was not a problem. That's cool. But I think as sure as everyone who's had beverages before shoots those what if scenarios out, right? Hey, if someone came up to you and offered you $1 million, what would you do as you're drinking, right? And it's all just BS because who's walking up to you on the street with $1 million? And I think we were sitting there drinking and we were about to watch a Sunday night football game, and it came up and I kind of joked with him like, hey, if someone offered you $1 million, would you take a teeny sip of alcohol? And supposedly he said no. I kind of ribbed him a little bit, and then he got offensive that, but he let it boil up. And then he blew up on me before a podcast, before we were going to record one. And I was like, hey, I'm the type of guy, if you got a problem, just say it straight up, and then we can work on it. If I talk to you a certain way, hey, let's fix it right then and there. So that's where it kind of, delved into it, where it just, he had a problem. He didn't bring it up till it was too late. And I tried to work it out, and it just, other people stepped up. So no worries.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, I went to the last Giant game that they played in Carolina. It was 2-3 years ago, I guess. That was the game where Gano beat us at the end with the field goal. You guys got a beautiful stadium. I absolutely love that stadium. That whole area there is really nice, and you do a good job. I love the song that they play to introduce the Panther players. For the life of me, I can't find it anywhere. It's heavy metal something. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
It was great. And boy, if you guys could find whatever that song is for me, I'd love that, because
I haven't been to a game in a couple years, just with having, like, I've got a 4-year-old, he'll be 5 in November, and then a 2-year-old, or a 1-year-old, excuse me. And I don't know if you guys have kids, but trying to take them to a game when their attention span is like no. And I think the NFL's dirty little secret is they've made the at-home experience so much better. I mean, my couch is a lot better. My restroom's cleaner. My beer's cheaper. My food's cheaper. Everything's a little bit better. I got my 86-inch TV. I got, if the Panthers start sucking, I can mute them and flip Red Zone on, and I'm good to go. Whereas if they crap the bed like they did against the Browns in the first half, I'm sitting there in the sun sweating my nuts off and just miserable and wondering, they spent all season just to put this out on the field. So yeah, I mean, it's been a while, but if I'll text some people who've been to a couple games and see if they, but I'm hoping that once my son 5-6-year-old range, where maybe he can sit through a whole game without being like 5 minutes and ready just to go walk around the stadium, and you pay, $400 just to get in for a family of 4 on top of food and then drink. And then they got to get a souvenir because you went down there. So all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So let's kind of start chopping it up here a little bit. So you mentioned Sunday's game. Give us your thoughts as a Carolina, fan base here. What were you expecting Sunday, and what were your feelings about the results?
You're talking about the Browns game?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I honestly had went into this season trying to I wanted to enjoy football season, right? Because even though if your team sucks, at the end of it, when the Super Bowl's done, everybody misses football, right? You're like, oh, you can't get enough of it. You're ready to watch the combine. You're ready to get the draft, all that. If you go back and listen to we talked about Matt Rule, I don't think he should be an NFL head coach. I don't think he's got the makeup. And I'll even compare it to see you guys and how your players play for your coach. And after that win you guys had, going for 2 and getting it on Sunday, I see our players playing for Matt Rule, but he just always contradicts himself. Last year, he talked about he wanted to run the football more. He wanted to run the football. Then all of a sudden he opens up this press conference this week, and the reason they started their first 3 series with throwing the football was because to win in this league, you have to throw the football. He always finds a way to say something different that is a cop-out in a certain way of why they lost and why they didn't get the job done. So how I felt about it, the first half was just bad. I mean, yeah, they went 3 and outs, and it was almost like you've got Christian McCaffrey out there, and I know he's been hurt, but they almost schemed him out of the game. And at some point, you're playing football to play football, right? Like you can't, if he's going to get hurt, he gets hurt. That's what you signed up for. You kept him on the team, and you should scheme with your best players involved. And to open up the game with, you don't want to be too obvious, 3 straight runs up the middle, but not even getting McCaffrey the ball in his hands until like the second or third drive was just absolutely unreal to me, because he's the best player on the team. He's a top 5 player in the NFL when healthy. I mean, so that was weird. And when they finally got him the ball, we had some success. It opens up things. And that was just, and then Rule comes out, and we knew it was coming as Panther fans. We've been talking about it, this BS battle they had between Darnold and Baker. And then it was like they wanted to battle in training camp. And then we knew if the loss came in week 1, Rule would come out with the excuse saying, oh, but we haven't had enough time.
Yeah.
Well, you did have time, but you wasted those first team reps in training camp on a fake battle for 2 guys that one guy you just traded for, the other guy you traded a year before that stunk on ice. So what are you doing? Now you're going to use the excuse that you didn't have enough time. Well, you should have been giving Baker all the first team reps, so this offense didn't stall as much as it did. So he's just an excuse machine. I don't know how long he's going to be here. They have the talent to be competitive. The Panthers do. But I think their coaching staff, and he hired a couple you got old McAdoo, your boys down there now calling plays. He's had some success, but he didn't really, he wasn't like the big flashy kind of offensive coordinator you want, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, just overall kind of disappointed. I'm glad they did have some fight. They didn't just completely lay down. They came back down 17 points in the third and fourth quarter and were able to put it there. I wish they would have put it away. Baker fumbles a snap on first down, then they do 2 runs up the middle with McCaffrey and kind of just play it safe. And we all know, they burned all 3 of their timeouts, the Browns did, but then you get a rough in the passing penalty, gives them 15, and then you don't ever want to blame the officials, but the officials, pull off a call when it was a fake spike, but it wasn't a fake spike. And then it is what it is. You don't want to blame it on officials, but things happen, and they should have been better. It just they weren't prepared, and that's been it's like almost watching a vicious cycle over and over again of a Matt Rule Carolina Panthers team.
Yeah. Going into Sunday, I wasn't expecting a lot because, like Jake said, Baker didn't have a lot of time with the ones. But then again, you also got to think we do have a top 5 running back, and everybody knows that we do. So they're going to scheme around him. So they're going to say, okay, you have him, we're going to stop him, make someone else beat us, like DJ Moore or a wide receiver, tight end, make them beat us to win the game. And first half, like I said, we were atrocious. And I think we came back. We were trying to come back too late in the third. They did run the third down to, I think, 8 minutes or something like that on us. So when we did get the ball in the third, we were trying to come back too late. And then like Jake said, you got that pass interference or the roughing the passer call. Like you can't blame the refs, and you can't leave it in the refs' hands. So it's kind of on us that we left it in their hands to where we could have won the game if it wasn't for that. But it was atrocious in the first half.
Steve, did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
Yeah. So I love the comments, guys, because listen, we were like ground zero for dysfunction the last. Well, I've lost track. To put it into perspective, as Giants fans, we're 1-0, and this is our first time we have a winning record since 2016. At 1-0. So
it feels like we just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So hearing the dysfunction, it's not that I feel bad or don't feel bad. It's just I get it.
Yeah.
So my question is 2 parts for either of you guys. Part one, if we could and part one will lead into part two, and you'll see why I'm asking. Hit the rewind button. Go back a few months ago, the NFL draft. I think the talk for a lot of us who, especially as Giants fans, we had 2 picks in the top half of the draft there, at the top of the first round. It was, what's Carolina going to do? And the big debate seemed to be, are they going to take that tackle, try to finally fix that offensive line, or are they going to go for a quarterback? And we all know how it played out. You guys went for Icky, and then you were kind of up the crapper with what we're going to do at quarterback because people weren't happy with Sam Darnold. But then you had this, they fell in love, I guess, with Baker, and the trade made sense. So how are Carolina fans feeling? What do you guys think is the sentiment about the choice they made? And then part two, segue to how do we all feel? How do you all feel about Icky and the offensive line in general? I know Icky, he didn't have a great game. I think I read 2 sacks, 6 pressures, but to be fair, he was going against Myles Garrett, who was one of the top 1, 2, depending if you want, flavor of ice cream, TJ Watt. We can debate about who's the best pass rusher in football, but the guy's a monster. So it was a tough first game for Icky. So how are Carolina fans feeling about what you did in the draft? I'm just curious. And then part two, given they took a tackle, how's that offensive line? What are you guys thinking?
I mean, I think I speak for a lot of Panthers fans. We were fine with taking the tackle. I think the board fell right. I wouldn't have wanted Kenny Pickett at 6. I didn't think he was worth that. There wasn't really any quarterbacks. I mean, Malik Willis would have been cool in the 2nd or 3rd round, but they didn't have a 2. They didn't, and they trade for Crowd, all that kind of stuff. They'd given up so many different picks because of the Darnold trade and then all that other different kind of thing. And we've been looking for a left tackle since Jordan Gross retired, and that was 2012 or 13.
Yeah, I was going to say 13.
Yes, and so that's 10 years. We've been looking for a tackle. We got Michael Orr on the backside of his career to make that Super Bowl run, and he was just good enough there until it all fell apart in the Super Bowl on that grass that was like an ice skating rink.
That was the kid in Baltimore they made the movie about, right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Oh my God.
They signed him for it, and he hung on for that 1 year, and then injuries started derailing his career. And then we went through the Khalil brothers. We had Ryan Khalil at center, which was great center for us for a lot of years. They went out and got his brother, who was that number 4 overall pick by the Vikings, and he was done. He was getting spun around everywhere. So we've been looking for a left tackle for a while. They've tried defensive tackles, flipping to offensive tackle. So I think we were cool with that. I think the biggest thing that's come down to is just how bad everything's been managed with Rule since he got there, right? Like, you had Cam, you had Kuechly, all these guys, and then they cut Cam to then immediately sign Bridgewater. And at that point, I think a lot of fans were saying, wait a second, let's just see what Will Grier has in the 3rd round pick. And if we bottom out, who's sitting at the top of the draft? Trevor Lawrence is sitting at the top of the draft. So let's do that. But no, they wanted to go out and get Bridgewater. And then we shrugged through a year of 5-11. So we're picking in a weird spot. Then they don't decide. They get rid of Bridgewater, and they're like, okay, what are we going to do? Oh, we trade for Darnold. Okay, cool. Gave up a lot. Now looking back on it. So we're not going to take Justin Fields. Okay, we'll take J.C. Horn. Great. J.C. Horn gets hurt in game 3. Yep. We don't really know what he's about. He seems like he's going to be good. He's got the pedigree, but still to be determined. And we're just churning at quarterbacks. I mean, everybody knows you don't survive in this league unless you have a franchise quarterback. And I think that's what's Rule's downfall. So back to it, that kind of set the domino effect of now, okay, we're sitting here. I think we're all cool with taking that left tackle, because if it is Baker, if it is Corral, who they took in the 3rd round, if it is somebody else next year, I don't, that's fine. At least you have that left tackle. I mean, you guys took what, Andrew Thomas, and then you also took now Neal. I mean, you at least got to give your quarterback, whoever it may be, and with these rookie pay scales now, you should know by year 2 or 3 if your guy, and I mean, you guys are doing the same thing, decline Daniel Jones option.
Yep.
You at least got your tackle. So now you can spend all your time trying to find that quarterback. And you don't have to necessarily worry about passing over somebody. So, and you can go out and do what the Bucs did, right? Oh, wait, Tom Brady's a free agent. Our offensive line's full of 1st rounders. All we need is a quarterback, and just pluck him out of free agency. If you've got the offensive line, at least an older quarterback or a younger guy can survive a little bit better than Justin Fields running for his life out there, and the Bears are just trying to get him killed. So I think we were cool with the offensive line pick at 6, and how the draft played out. I mean, Corral at 3, he got hurt again. The weirdest thing, Cam's injury starts derailing this whole thing with tearing his Lisfranc against the New England Patriots in the preseason. Matt Corral ends up doing the same exact thing years later. I mean, we're in a vicious cycle where I have to constantly remind myself that we cheer for a team whose mascot is a black cat. And that's just always kind of what happens is we end up just having bad luck happen whenever we think something good's coming. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
That's great. So I just want to piggyback on that for a minute. So Neil or the guy you got, do you think you got the right one or too early?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. Neil seemed to be the top guy. Then, I mean, you guys settled him in at right tackle. We've got a right tackle. That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to try to pretend to tell you that I'd be able to. I think Charles Cross was the other one who Seattle ended up getting there.
Yes.
I would have honestly been happy with any of those three because we had been searching for a left tackle, like I said, for 10 years. And if they would have taken Neil and plugged him in at left tackle, that would have been fantastic. If they took Charles Cross, I mean, either way, I was just hoping for one of those guys. Worst case scenario for me would have been if all three of those guys went and somehow they, a trade down wouldn't have been bad, but if they took Pickett just because that was the last guy on their board and everybody was gone, I mean, we had taken the corner the year before, so I didn't think any of those corners were going to go. And then we had traded for C.J. Henderson, who was a first-round pick a couple years ago for the Jaguars. So we had so much on the defense already. It seemed to be it was going to be offense or quarterback, and I think the tackle was fine with it. And I'm cool. I was cool with it. They're telling us it was the best player on their board. I mean, he was a pancake machine. That's all they talked about over in the draft and all the combine. So I think he'll settle in. I mean, every rookie tackle doesn't really necessarily come out. And like you said, Myles Garrett's Myles Garrett. I mean, he was going to cause them trouble. He gave up a couple plays, but hopefully he can build on that. It's the NFL. Everybody gets paid. Everybody gets beat. There's no one who's 100% all the time. So I'm just cool. They can kind of sit there and hopefully he's good. We'll find out in at least maybe 2 or 3 years. And we can try to focus on other positions and improve the team.
Yep.
Well, I mean, Andrew Thomas started slow, and look at the player we've got now. So, I mean, your point makes sense. Steve, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Steve.
No, I was just curious what Jeeves was thinking about the offensive line. From what I read, the interior of your offensive line, your center, your two guards was the strength of the game. They're pretty solid. It's your two tackles are, like you guys just said, you have a rookie on one side. It's working. How are you feeling about the offensive line that the Giants are going to go up against?
I mean, I think our offensive line is good, but like you said, we have that rookie on the left side. So that I think everybody is going to take that as their strength, the team's strength, and say, okay, they got a rookie, let's go after him and put your best guy on the left side so they can pressure that rookie to, step up and block for the quarterback. But I think everybody else on that offensive line is pretty stout. And I mean, I think we got a decent one. We just have to give whoever the quarterback is, Baker or Darnold, we just have to give them time to get the ball out and get it down the field or the check down to CMC. So we just have to, our offensive line has to get better at giving the quarterback time to get the play, to run the play. And I think that was our downfall in the first quarter, first half, is we weren't giving Baker enough time. Everybody was just getting blown up and falling on their butts, and he's getting destroyed, or he's got to throw it away, throw it out of bounds, or miss the check down like he did a couple times to Christian McCaffrey. And that's not how you win the game.
So let me just drill it down a little bit more specific, because that's my fault. And then I'm done. I'll throw it back to Carl. When we talk, so where I'm going with this, with my questions about the offensive line, is Giants fans, like, you guys had the second least amount of rushing yards last week, from what I read, of any team. Just the only team that had fewer rushing yards was the Rams. You guys had 54 yards, but you did have 2 rushing touchdowns. I didn't see if it was who had them. You got Christian McCaffrey. I mean, my gosh, like one of the coming off injuries, but one of the best. And then Baker can run a little bit. And is that purely because, do you think, I'm sure coaching, game plan, we can have that conversation, but is it because Cleveland's defense is that good? And they are, they got a good defense, would you expect them to have more success running the ball against the Giants? Or is it just they're having a little bit of a tough time with that offensive line running the ball? I guess that's where I'm going with that question.
Well, I'll throw it to you. So it was CMC scored one rushing touchdown, and he did run in the other touchdown.
Okay.
What I think did happen a lot is the center and quarterback exchange. There, I think, were 4 fumbles. It was the most I'd ever seen in a game in a professional setting. I mean, it was like Pop Warner stuff. And it was really weird to see that. It's Elfline, and he's been hit or miss. I really thought they were going to start Bradley Bozeman, who they signed in the offseason, made a big deal about it, to try to get physical because he's a big presence. But he injured his ankle against one of the preseason games, so he kind of got behind. But I still think it was one of those things like, why did we sign this guy if we're not going to use him? Again, that comes down to weird rule stuff that he does. And then our guards, Christensen, they took in the 3rd round last year. And I think, and that was another big thing is, as we talked about the quarterback competition, Rule made it a left tackle competition between Christensen and Ickey. And it was like, wait a second, you don't take a guy 6 overall to really put him. I mean, we all know it's football. You got to compete. We get it. But you were bad. Like, we haven't had a left tackle in years. Just put him out there so him and Christensen can start developing chemistry. And it took him till week 3 in the preseason to finally put Ickey out there, the starting left tackle, and move Christensen into guard full time. So that is going to take some time. And then the right guard, they got Austin Corbett, the Super Bowl champion from the Rams. So I thought that was a good pickup. So they spent a little bit of money on the upgrades. To Jeeb's point, they did give up a couple of pressures here and there. Should they run the ball more? Absolutely. I mean, I think, and they went out and got Deonta Foreman from the Titans to take away some of those up the gut runs. Yeah. And again, they didn't use him at all. It was, again, they came up and really went 3 and out and threw the ball, I think, the first 6 to 12 times out of those first plays. I mean, it was unreal. I just couldn't believe it because I'm thinking you have McCaffrey and they're not even giving him a chance to make moves. I mean, one of his biggest plays was another fumbled snap in the shotgun that Baker had, and he picked the ball up and ran it for 23 yards. Yep. And so it's just one of those things where McAdoo schemed the offensive game plan last week for Baker to shine instead of scheming it around McCaffrey. You should always scheme your offense around your best players because they're your best players for a reason. And like I said, it was like they were scared to get him hurt. And at some point, and McCaffrey will even tell, he's been saying, obviously, at some point, you got to play football. Like, if the injuries happen, injuries happen. I mean, I don't want him to, as they did last year in the first 2 games. I think he got like 65 to 70 touches. And then in week 3, they played Thursday night, and he pulled his hamstring, and then he was out, and then he had all kinds of injuries the rest of the way. So that's fine. But there should be a balance there. And if they can't figure it out, this is Rule's 3rd year, if they can't figure out how to get McCaffrey involved without over-touching him, I don't know why he's getting paid as the 3rd highest paid, 5th highest paid coach in the NFL, because that seems like something you should have been talking about after season 1 when you had McCaffrey and he got hurt. Okay, what's our game plan if he gets hurt again? And the second year, they had no game plan. Their backup running back was Chuba Hubbard, a 4th round pick, who can't get any separation on runs, and no team was scared of him to run the ball, so they just stacked 8 in the box, and Darnold wasn't going to beat anybody. I mean, he got lucky those first couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden we saw the real Sam Darnold, Darnold out there. And we saw the same scene Ghost Darnold all year, and that's why they traded for Baker. So offensive line-wise, I feel better about it than last year. It's probably one of the better offensive line we've had, as bad as we put Cam out there, and Cam covered up so many deficiencies that we would just throw all kinds of guys out there because he could just do everything, and it kind of hurt the evaluation process because you're like, oh, I can just put out a Devin Funchess and a Kelvin Benjamin wide receiver because Cam's going to help us out. I can put out a converted defensive tackle at left tackle because Cam's going to make sure that defensive end doesn't completely destroy us. Mm-hmm. And then when he got his shoulder blown up by TJ Watt, and then everything went downhill from there, then now we've been searching for offensive linemen. So to that point, I mean, you guys have got Thibodeau on the outside, a couple other big boys. You've got a lot of first-round picks on that defensive line, if I'm not mistaken. So it should be a good little battle.
Yeah.
So you're going to kind of catch a break this week, is it? Because it looks like Thibodeau and our other edge, Ojulari from Georgia, our pick last year from Georgia, not number 1, may not play. They both missed Sunday's game due to injury, and it doesn't look good for either one of them suiting up again. So, one of the things that Steve and I have been going back and forth on our podcast is, with the way the Giants are set up and the way their offense goes, we both kind of agree that you you use the run to set up the passing game. And I guess, with a back like McCaffrey, what should Giant fans be looking for from an offensive perspective from Carolina on Sunday? Are we going to get a heavy dose of McCaffrey? Do you think the game plan is going to be run to set up the pass? What should we kind of be prepared for on Sunday?
I think you're definitely going to get a heavy dose of McCaffrey. Anytime that roulette team has gone one way, it swings back the other. And last year, and at the end of Rivera's regime, all it was if we get the ball to McCaffrey, good things happen. That usually happen. And if Rule has got to win, and I think at some point, again, that's why he gave him those first 2 games last season so many touches, and we won those games, even though it was against bad teams. I think you're going to give it to McCaffrey a lot. I expect him to run the ball on the very first offensive series that they get, whether it be, right off the bat or not. But I would expect maybe a couple reverses to a DJ Moore to get the ball in his play. He's almost like a wide receiver that is built like a running back, but I would expect McCaffrey to have at least 15 to 20 rushes if we're not down, a lot to you guys. I mean, look, we played you guys last year and it was 5-3 through like 3 or 4 quarters.
Yeah,
and it was
one of those barn burner.
Yeah, it was just a disgusting game. And then y'all finally broke it open with I think Bradbury pick on Darnold, and then it just went downhill and we kind of mustered up something at the very, very end, but it was too little too late. But I do expect McCaffrey to be a lot more involved in this offense this week than he was this past week, because you just can't be the highest paid running back and not touch the ball, but only like 3 times in the first half.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off what Jake said, if we start the game like we ended the game against the Browns, then because Christian McCaffrey got some touches in the second half, but I think Baker needs to look at the check down, because there was a lot of missed opportunities with Christian at the check down that could have gotten just the chunk plays, just like the 5-6 yards that'll lead you to a second and short and not have to go for the whole either 10 on the second down or the whole 10 or 15 or whatever you're at on the third because of the offensive line getting blown up. So I think that if we can get to that, the check downs and the runs, and then like Jake said, maybe do a swing with DJ and get that running going, then I think it could lead to the passing game, open up the passing game. But we have to get that check down to get those little chunk yards just to move it out of our side of the field.
So, Steve, I'm just going to follow up with one more question, and I'm going to turn it back over to you. So, one of the things that the Giants struggled with last week against Tennessee was not Derrick Henry on the run, but was Dontrell Hilliard coming out of the backfield, and he caught 2 touchdown passes, a 7-yarder and a 23-yarder, and he went straight down the middle of our defense, and it was wide open. We released Blake Martinez. Our linebackers are young, not as skilled as some other linebacking crews, and I'm being generous there, around the NFL. So we're talking about McCaffrey here. Is it going to be a mix between him running and him coming out of the backfield? Do you see them going one way or the other with him? You see them exploiting that?
If they're smart and they're making 6-7 figures, they should. It's so right. It's so easy with McCaffrey. Like, McCaffrey makes the game easy if you don't overthink it. Now, yeah, you don't want to give him 40 touches in one game, but McCaffrey on a choice route is there's no linebacker that can guard him. Kuechly always had trouble guarding him in training camp. McCaffrey one-on-one with any linebacker is a 95% success rate. And they should, they've got to get him involved in doing some of those choice routes. There was debate this offseason about putting him in the slot so he wouldn't take the beating and banging of being in the running back position, but he kind of fought back about he still wanted to be the tailback. But they should. I mean, I'm hoping they're looking at the tape and seeing, oh, we should get this involved. But sometimes I'm not confident in this coaching staff. So I really don't know, but I really hope that that's what they're going to do and get their best players the ball. And it should be a good mix of run and pass. And it really should. I mean, some of McCaffrey's best plays are, to Jeep's point, some of the checkdowns where he makes people miss, or just those quick little boop, boop, just a one-cut route, and he's open in the middle of the field, and there's no linebacker that can stop it. And then if you double bracket him, one of the receivers should be open on the outside, right? And that's the whole point of this offense. It should go through McCaffrey. Feed him early, so later in the game, all of a sudden your other players are open because they're going to be cheating the box to either stop the run or stop that quick check down that opens up the slants, that opens up the deep ball, and that's where it should go. But again, we're just a couple guys sitting on our couches drinking some beers. What do we know, right?
Yeah.
Steve, what do you have?
So this is kind of a segue, I suppose, my question to right when before we get into defense. So there's a method to my madness. There's a reason I'm asking this question. As Giants fans, we've just lived through the Stone Age with offensive game planning with Jason Garrett, and it was literally like 1959, and I wasn't even alive then. So when I ask you this question, Giants fans are particularly sensitive to this, and I'm already thinking about our defense and what's our defense. And remember, we got Wink now, so exotic looks, blitz packages. Tennessee, we didn't do a ton of that, actually. We built a wall around Derrick Henry and we held him. Do you guys, so my question is, what's your offensive game plan? Is there you don't need to get into the whole thing. It's just very simple, probably yes or no. Is there pre-snap motion? Do they put McCaffrey in motion? Is there a pre-snap, or is it kind of more of a traditional set offense where everybody lines up, Robbie, DJ Moore, and everybody's like, okay, now go get him?
No, I mean, we're still kind of learning what Ben McAdoo's going to do because, again, we've seen him a couple preseason games and now first game. But, yeah, I mean, McCaffrey in motion has been a staple since, I think, his Stanford days. I mean, that's just a smart thing to do to try to figure out the defense. But, yeah, DJ Moore, Robbie, they all come in. I mean, they definitely sent a lot of motions in the chip blocks to help on Myles Garrett. So, yeah, I mean, it's not going to be straight ahead Stonehenge days type offense. We've been through some of those too in the past where it was just crazy. But, yeah, I mean, and we're still trying to figure out what exactly McAdoo is going to call because we've only seen him in real live game for, at least for the Panthers offensive coordinator for one game. And that first half, no one out of like that one. Second half, it got a little bit better. Again, there's going to be a lot of RPOs. I think you're still with a back like McCaffrey and Baker. RPOs have been in the NFL now for for forever, but they've become popular again these last, 7, 8, 10 years. And I mean, back to the fumbled snaps, there's a play on there where literally Baker fumbles a snap. If he gets it to McCaffrey, I mean, the offensive line opens it up and he can go. So I think you're going to see definitely those motions where he starts off in the slot and then comes back. And does he take the handoff? More than likely, yes. Or at least there's the fake there and it gives them the option. And even the last play of the game or that fumble again on the last driver, they could have, clocked the game away. It was an RPO, but Baker fumbles it and he didn't get a chance to actually possibly, because if we get the first down, they use all their timeouts. We can kick the field goal with 2 seconds left instead of giving a minute 15 and they get a chance to actually, return the favor. So, that's what I'm looking for is just an improvement on that second half, but I'm not confident that it's going to do it. I'm down in the sewers right now with confidence in how this team's going to respond to adversity.
Yeah. I think like Jake said it best. I mean, you got to see a little bit of both. You got to see McCaffrey in motion. Even if McCaffrey's right next to Baker, you see DJ or even Robbie in the motion, and it gets y'all's defense just wondering, okay, is who if the guy in motion is going to get the ball, or is McCaffrey going to get it, or if we're just running him in motion and Baker just throws it down the field or just does the check down because nothing's open or whatnot. But I think we'll see a little bit of both.
Gotcha. I appreciate that.
And then you both kind of briefly touched on the receivers. Just kind of give us an overview of your receivers room. I mean, you got Robbie Anderson, who, I was actually watching the Panthers game with a couple of the games, and I saw the bomb to him. I mean, he's such a deep threat. All right. You've also got DJ Moore, but just kind of give us a quick overview on your receivers. Is what should we? A lot of downfield passing, seam. What should we be looking for with the passing game?
I think with Baker, even dating back to his Browns days, even Oklahoma days, he likes to get the ball, deep ball, right? Yeah. And so we didn't see that. The one problem we had with Sam Darnold was he was just so jittery. He was scared to throw the deep ball. So I do expect a couple shots. Baker he's known to just at least give it a receiver a chance at sometimes. So with Robbie, yeah, he seems to do that. I think, he can run about every route, but they do keep him more so on the deeper routes just because of his speed. DJ Moore is kind of like you said, he's built like a running back, but he's like a receiver. So his yards after catch are always wild, which then makes you kind of cringe because he has had fumbling issues where he starts getting into that breaking tackles, and that one big hit and the ball pops out. Now your third spot is kind of in flux. It's been Shi Smith. I think he's going to get some more burn. He was like our 6th, 7th round pick 2 years ago. And he's got some speed, University of South Carolina. He is going to be the punt returner this year, this upcoming week, because Andre Roberts did get hurt.
Mhm.
He's out for at least the next 2 months, Rule said today. So that will be interesting to see how he plays. But then they never rotated in Rashard Higgins, and they never rotated in our 2nd round pick, Terrace Marshall, from a year ago as well. So they got 0. They were dressed, but they didn't even get in on the action. Rule attributes that to, the offense went 3 and out 3 straight times at the beginning of the game. And then by the second half, other guys were still in a roll, so they didn't want to mess anything up. So I expect to also see a couple of those guys get a couple looks, because, I mean, I guess they can only really go up, right? From 0 snaps to 1 is an improvement on their end if playing. So besides that, after Robbie, it's really Shi Smith looks like he can be a guy, good third slot receiver, but again, he just hasn't had enough time on the field to where you can fully be fully confident in him. So that's really wide receiver room wise. We'll see. That could be a difference maker in the game, but the Shi Smith is the guy to watch and see if he can get in the slot, if the offense can get rolling, because it took a whole half before it got rolling last week.
Well, and I think just to piggyback off of that, Ian Thomas, the tight end, and I think he's another one that you got to watch out for. He did have that big play down the field, which everybody in Jake's house was screaming for him to score, but he fell short. I think he's another, like I said, he's one to watch out for because he is a big tight end. He's coming into his own, but because he played behind Greg Olsen, right, Jake?
Yeah,
and
behind Olsen, yeah.
And if you play behind him, I mean, that was one of the greats of the tight end. So he got to learn, and like I said, he's coming into his own. So I think he's another one besides Shi Smith that I think the Giants need to watch out for.
Do they throw to the tight end a lot? Do they utilize him in the passing game a lot?
It's still, like I said, the interesting case with Ian Thomas was like, we thought he was going to walk in free agency, and then they decided to re-sign him because he did kind of underperform once Greg Olsen retired. And I really thought Tommy Trimble, their 3rd round pick from a year ago, was going to be the guy to kind of ascend, but he's just kind of right now he's a punisher where they just put him in that, like I said, he had a big chip block against Myles Garrett that kind of made internet. But again, back to it, they, McAdoo said he wants to involve tight ends, and I forgot about that play, Jeeves. But yeah, that was the biggest play I think a tight end had in the past 2 or 3 years that Ian Thomas caught in week 1. But the offense stunk so bad in that first half, we just didn't get a good look. Because I said 3 and outs. I mean, that's 9 total plays, and a lot of incompletions, a lot of tip balls. Baker had like 4 or 5 balls tipped. You didn't get a gist of it. Second half, they're playing from behind, so it was a little bit of sense of urgency. So we have yet to see a consistent, okay, let's march, a couple drives and then punt, or a couple drives and field goal.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see. They want to get a tight end involved, but to me, we're going to sit back and watch it just like y'all and be surprised if a tight end catches more than 3 or 4 passes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Steve?
So if I may, let's pivot to defense. We're Giants fans, and us Giants fans love defense.
Yeah.
But what that means is our shiny new offense. What's that with our star Saquon? What are we going to be up against? So, listen, it's funny when people talk Carolina around the league as fans, and I'm just speaking from my own experience. It's like you can't really think of anybody. I remember Brian Burns when he was drafted out of Florida State. He's never had double-digit sacks. He's had 7.5, 9, 9. I remember Chin in the back end of your defense. I know you got a couple of tackling machines at linebacker. Like there's not a lot of Pro Bowlers, but people always have this respect still for Carolina's defense. Like, yeah, but they got a pretty good defense. Educate our fans. Like, what would you say is the strength of your defense? What are you guys good at? Where are the opportunities for a team like the Giants offensively to take advantage of that defense potentially? Like, what do you see as the strength of your defense? What are you guys good at? Help us understand.
The strength of our defense lost all its luster when Luke Kuechly retired. The strength of our defense is that Shaq Thompson got to hang out with Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis before they both kind of left. I mean, we're still figuring that out. With Phil Snow coming up with a college scheme, they went kind of 46 hybrid, smaller defensive ends. Burns is really good. He improved his run technique to stop the run this past offseason. He did a really good job against the Browns, but our linebackers Shaq's been Shaq. He's coming off an injury, so he didn't play a full game, but they're pulling in guys, Damian Wilson from the Jaguars as a free agent, and then Littleton, who was kind of good with the Rams, but then kind of washed out with the Raiders and the Chargers. And I think Chubb and Hunt had their way with us this past game. I think Saquon could go for another $150, another $125 if really want to. I mean, they've got they've got the talent, but they just, as with this whole team, they just haven't lived up to it. They got Derek Brown, who's a massive man of a defensive tackle, but
the kid out of Auburn.
But he takes a lot of plays off. And there's times when that man who's 375 pounds or 350 pounds gets pancaked, and you're like, what are you doing? It's just
really.
I think he was so used to dominating just off of pure brute strength. And that's cool in middle school, high school, college. You can get away with it when Auburn's playing Bethesda State and the accountant's going to be their guard, right? But in the NFL, they're all pros. And even if the guy's smaller than you and he understands leverage and he understands his technique, he can get it. I think Wyatt Teller put him straight on his back. That was going around on Twitter, Derek Brown. So, and that's been his constant thing with him is, and it's just his motor and keeping it going for a full 4 quarters.
Jacob, I don't mean to be rude to interrupt, but so you guys run a 4-3 and you stay in the 4-3 most of the time.
If you're playing Madden, that's your main set, right? But Snow kind of throws a lot of different things at you. Like it's a 4-3 if you're going up, okay, here's your, you go through your roster, they're doing the Monday Night Football intro players. But it may be a 4-6, it may be a 5-2, it may, he just depending on who we play is kind of his philosophy of, okay, if they've got 3 great receivers, we may pull a linebacker out and go more nickel or dime, we may bring an extra safety in and run 3 safeties in. We may drop Jeremy Chin down to linebacker instead of safety and have him play there. So
he's a big kid.
Love it.
He's big, he's fast. He's kind of been negated moving back to safety. They said they wanted to take the wear and tear off his body of being an outside linebacker. He still makes plays, but he's just more so on the back end. And it's just, we missed it. I think they said we missed 15 to 16 tackles this past game. We were there, but
really?
The linebacking core has not been good since Kuechly retired.
Because it's not like you guys were playing the Chiefs out there. No offense.
No, I agree. Listen, trust me, we feel the same way. And they, like I said, they got J.C. Horn, who's a first-round corner. C.J. Henderson was taking the pick after Derek Brown by the Jaguars that we traded for last year for a tight end and a 3rd-round pick.
But J.C. Horn is back and he's healthy, and that kid, you guys like him. He's good, right?
Yes. We like him. He's always going to be linked to Justin Fields and how Justin Fields' success goes, though, in my mind. If Justin Fields has an all-pro career, as we said earlier in the pod, you want a starting Pro Bowl caliber all-world quarterback. J.C. Horn can be Jalen Ramsey. What did he do down in Jacksonville? Now, they did make the AFC Championship game, and the Patriots ended up doing the Patriot things and got to the Super Bowl. I like J.C. Horn. I think he's going to be great. He's kind of working his way back. He had a slip against Amari Cooper that would have been a big play against him. But otherwise, growing up with his dad making all that money, he didn't have to play football. He decided to play football. He is a dog. I think he's going to be really, really good. To my point, they've got the talent there. We have yet to see a complete game.
Yeah.
To me, that final drive, that was a chance for the defense to step up, shut Brissett down, and negate it all. And time again, it happened last year when we played Washington. Every time the defense has needed an absolute stop to win the game, we have yet to do it with Rule. And so in my mind, it's just we've been so close. How many years can you be so close to where it's like you need to turn that key over or turn the edge and actually let's win this game? So for you guys, Daniel Jones, he have one of the best passer ratings. We'll see how he fares against this and what does Snow pull out to kind of mix it up. But like I said, I'm still trying to figure out what he's going to dice up because we lost Hassan Reddick. We didn't really replace him. A lot of young guys were out of position a lot of those times, a lot of missed tackles. I don't know if it was jitters. I don't know, what it was, but I hope to see a more determined defense earlier on in that first half, at least, and then all the way through the game. But they've got the talent. If they'll put it all out on the field, to be determined.
So Chubb and Hunt had big days last Sunday against your defense.
Yep.
So Saquon Barkley did what he did last week against Tennessee. So should we expect, do you think, and have you seen them do this in the past, where are they going to try to stack the box to stop him at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage? And then my follow-up to that is, if not, on passing down, do you think we're going to see a lot of blitzing out of your defense?
It's always, as I said earlier, it's like it goes one way. They did not blitz really at all in that game against the Browns. They tried to get there with 4, and they weren't successful with it. Now, the Browns' offensive line's pretty good. You guys have got some studs, as we talked about earlier. I expect them to try to get there with 4, and then when they don't, they're going to bring some blitzing. But I also expect them to kind of throw out last week's game plan and try to and go with a whole new one because that one didn't work. And I would not be surprised if they open the game to try to get a fast start, to try to get one of those Daniel Jones fumbles or random turnovers that he's been prone to have, just to try to get us a short field and try to get us up in the game instead of trying to play from behind. So it wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden you saw Chin. That last drive, they brought J.C. Horn, and J.C. Horn was literally like inches away from strip sacking Jacoby Brissett on one of those passes. And so I do appreciate that the defensive coach is open to realizing, okay, this scheme isn't working. We've got to adjust. The big thing in the NFL is adjusting at halftime, and they kind of did adjust a little bit at halftime. Still gave up a couple big runs, but that was more so linebackers not making tackles, guys not being in the right gaps. So I don't know if they'll completely come out, engage 8 if you want to as a joke on the first play of the game, but they could get a little exotic on you guys early on just to see if Daniel Jones will give them one of those patented, oh no, here it is kind of plays. So,
no.
Steve?
We're not big into talking specials. And one of the few bright spots last couple of years was our former GM stealing Gano. So not trying to rub that in, but man, we're happy we got that guy still. But talk to us about your specials. Good, bad, average, nothing to, or is there really not much to talk about? It's just your typical average special teams. They'll make it, you're not going to see a kickoff return or punt return. You're not going to see, but you'll just sort of get by. Like, what's your special teams like?
I think your final kick return, because like I said earlier, Chuba Hubbard doesn't, even though he was a world-class sprinter, he doesn't have breakaway speed. And now, like I said, Shi Smith on punt returns could be something in the mix. He's got a little bit of juice. He showed some stuff in the preseason, but again, he's only returned like 5 or 6 punts in his career, so we'll find out. If he does return one, it would be a surprise to everyone. Kicker, I mean, we've been cursed ever since we decided to keep Gano over Harrison Buckner years ago. We've been cursed at the position because then Buckner went on, one of the greatest kicking years of all time, wins a Super Bowl. He was great. And then Gano kind of got hurt for a couple of years and he was out. After he hit that 60-something yarder against you guys, it's all downhill from there. Yeah. And then you guys kind of got him on the back end where now he's got, as kickers all do, right? They get that like other team rejuvenation and they come back on it. And we've been cursed ever since then. We thought we had Zane Gonzalez, who on his second little third team. And in the preseason game, he destroys his warming up, kicking it into the net as we're going down there. So now we've got Eddie Pinheiro, who was famous for competing in Chicago with the double doink guy after they double doinked in the playoffs a couple years ago. He was with our special teams guy in Chicago. He hit his only big kick to go for the lead there at the end. So I have nothing negative really to say about him. But and punter wise, we got Hecker. I mean, he just won a Super Bowl too. He's Johnny Hecker. He knows where to put the ball. It is nice to actually have a punter that, okay, you don't feel like he's gonna. We went through a couple games where we literally had a guy shanking him 22 yards. And you're like, what is? Can we not find somebody else that can just put the ball either in the back of the end zone so there's no return, or at least directional kicking it? So, I mean, like I said, we lost Andre Roberts, who's been a Pro Bowl return guy for years and years and years to a knee injury. So we're kind of going to, again, toss up in the air. How's Chuba going to do? How's Shi Smith going to do return wise? You know, we'll see how y'all, if y'all got weather going on, if the winds are going to be whipping down there, how the kicks are going to go.
What are your thoughts about the Giants coming into this game? As Panther fans, you know, I know you're seeing them from a distance, but you know, you've seen some of the things we've done in the off season, and you know, obviously you guys are aware of what we did Sunday. What are your thoughts on the Giants coming to this game? How do you see us as an upcoming team, average team? Just quick observation.
Jeeves, I'll let you fire off first.
All right. I mean, I could see you guys at the Giants as an up and coming team. It just depends on who your next quarterback's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Since you guys didn't pick up the option for Daniel Jones, if you guys get somebody in free agent, or if you guys go through the draft and get somebody, and then also Saquon. I mean, he's always the hot topic for the Giants. If he can stay healthy, he is injury prone. What are you guys gonna do with him? I don't know. Is he? I think he's on his 4th year, or did y'all sign him to extension?
No, he's not been signed to an extension.
Okay, so then you guys have to figure out what you're gonna do with him.
Correct.
Are you gonna pay him, since you aren't paying Daniels? But I ultimately believe you guys are an up and coming team. It's just like us. You gotta figure out the pieces and figure out, okay, this person, and let's roll with the people that we get, and then develop the team from there.
Jacob?
Yeah, since Jeeves went broad picture, I mean, I think you're going to give Saquon the ball, right? Like, that seems to be how do you help a quarterback that's had up and downs, is give your running back the ball, and Saquon looks like he's back, right? So I guess for me, I expect, I don't think it's going to be like last year's game where it was 5-2 at some point or whatever. I expect a couple more touchdowns on it. You know, I had forgotten Thibodeau had went out with that low block in the preseason, and I know that was a big contention point everyone was talking about. So I really look at it as almost two evenly matched teams. I give you guys the edge on the coach, because it seems like your coach knows what he's doing, and he's in his first year as a head coach, where ours, I still think, is trying to figure out what he's doing coaching the NFL. So, you know, I think it's going to come down to like a couple, you know, who's going to turn the ball over, and are those turnovers going to be big plays that result in a pick six, a fumble recovery for a 6, or somewhere where you're low in the end zone. But how are you guys feeling going into this week?
Yeah.
Steve, go ahead.
Oh, come on, Carl, you first. You have to
Well, you know, obviously, like I said at the beginning of the show, we feel like we just won the Super Bowl, you know, coming off of that win. You know, I think you guys have been saying something which I kind of find a little interesting, because it mirrors what happened with us Sunday. Our first half was horrible. And I know a lot of people at halftime were saying same old Giants. And then they came out and they made adjustments, and it was a completely different team in the second half. And it was like, you know, this is what we've been waiting for. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we're feeling confident right now. Me personally, loved Daboll's play calling. Love the aggressive, we're going to go for 2. He told the team prior to that drive, if we score here, we're going for 2. And, you know, you could see after the game, the celebrations. I mean, the players were seeking him out, hug him and celebrate and congratulate. He won that locker room. And when you do that, these guys will play as hard for you. They'll give you everything they got. So, one thing coming into this year that Steve and I have been talking about is we just want competitive football. And I think just by Brian Daboll, the way he's coaching this team and that, that aggressive style, we're going to get competitive football. I don't see us being an easy out, as easy as we have been previously. But Steve, what do you think?
Look, you guys have been piling on Rule, and I would say justifiably so from a distance. The last couple of years, we've actually been thankful that we ended up not hiring Rule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You should be. You should be.
But I think what we haven't talked about as NFL fans is the cold hard truth is it starts with owners, and owners know when to sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
Let the professionals do their job, and then from there it's okay. Who's your GM? Now, we just came out of Voldemort, the guy, the name that shall not be spoken, who ironically was a Giant, went to Carolina, and then,
Oh yeah, he ruined the Super Bowl team. Don't worry about it.
Sure, he certainly
100%.
did.
So,
Gift that keeps on giving.
yeah. So, man, he's like, that guy's like a fart that won't go away.
Yeah.
So we finally have owners who realize, you know what, we messed this kid Daniel Jones up. We messed up the administration side of this team. They messed and they kept messing things up by hiring internally. So they went outside the organization. We have the right GM. So it seems. And what I took away, and Carl and I were texting, and after the game, we were like, like he said, it was like this. You think we won the Super Bowl? I said we got our coach.
Yeah.
We got our coach because all we've heard about in New York and Giants fans worldwide for the last however many years is culture. And we've had a couple of coaches that sounded real good on a podium, like Joe Judge. Man, that guy can talk. First couple minutes he's got you, and then after that he doesn't shut up. But actions matching words. It's you say it, you spray it, but it's like, and you said that about Rule. I heard you in the beginning. You're like, the thing that pisses you off, right, is the guy says this, and then next week it's totally different. And then and he says he's going to do this. So I think for me, 40,000 foot view, the takeaway was they're finally fixing the offensive line. And Carl and I talked about this as well. It's the first time in years we've had 2 guys off our practice squad signed to active NFL rosters on other teams, which was cruel in a way because that's our depth. But it was like a beautiful thing as well, because like, oh my God, it's been a decade since we've had an offensive lineman signed off our practice squad. What does that tell you? It tells you these guys are finally fixing that problem on our side. And it sounds like you guys also have been having that issue for this. So I always say it starts with the offensive line. We're finally fixing it. I think we have a coach and we have a coaching staff. But the problem with the Giants is historically the last 10 years has been, even if we have a good win at some point during the season, they come home and we get lulled to sleep, which happened a couple of years ago against Carolina and click the game winner against us. No offense, we should have won that game, and you hung with it, and you had very good coaching and deserved the win that day. So my concern is that these kids come home playing in front of their wives and their girlfriends and their family, and our stadium is rocking and it's amped up, and at the end of the day, it's not easy to win an NFL game, and you got to bring it every week. So we're in this weird place right now. I think as Giants fans, we're riding high, like, holy crap. We finally have our coach. We finally have what we've been looking for. We've been wandering the universe looking for these things again, but it's almost, is it too good to be true? And it's a weird place, but it's exciting too.
As a fan base, we're in as much transition as the team and the roster are. It's we're excited. It's been so bad, and there's been so much losing that the negativity has really been bad. Where we were turning on each other and turning on ourselves, and the infighting amongst Giants fans was terrible. And and I hate to keep saying it, but now we've like, wow, we feel like we've won a Super Bowl. So we're trying to temper our enthusiasm. This is year 1 of a rebuild, and you know, Steve and I went through the schedule, when the schedule was first released, and we both said 7-10. And, it's easy now because we won the first game and we saw some success. Like, whoa, maybe we underestimated the team. But, again, year one of the rebuild, I think the real winning and the playoffs come in year 2 and 3. But I think our arrow is pointing up. I feel confident. And again, my word all season has been hope. I just feel like we finally have hope. And, what are your feelings about coming into MetLife, which really, since it's been open, it's hosted one playoff game and you beat us there, actually. So with it possibly being loud like the old Giant Stadium and raucous, what are your thoughts? Do you have concerns about that? What do you expect that to do?
I think one of my favorite games was that year we went 15-1 and Josh Norman and Odell went back and forth, and y'all scored late. Eli played like crap in the first half, and then y'all scored late. And that famous meme of Cam sitting there going like, all right, I got to go do it, and then driving down the field and Gano hitting the game winner. I mean, that was a fun game, fun season altogether. But what do we feel like going in this season? This year coming up in a couple of days, you spoke on hope. That's kind of what I want to get back. And I feel like with Baker, you do have a little bit of hope. I just want them to trust their stars that they have on the team. And like I said, I think we're decently matched wise. It should be a good game. I don't think anybody's going to go in and, 38 goose at half or anything like that. But, to me up the board, it's kind of like if you're playing ESPN fantasy and they check off each roster who's is better and you're like, okay, Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, who would you choose? Figure it out on that one. Saquon or McCaffrey. We're kind of even across the board on some of these position groups where, like I said, it could come down to a one or two plays, game of inches, as we all know, of what's going to happen. But I just want to see our team give us a little hope and compete. And how are they going to bounce back after a loss where they thought they had won, but then a couple calls don't go their way? Can't blame the refs. But where's, adversity? That's always where we see everyone. Either you're going to run to it and figure out how to fix it, or you're going to cower away. And then you're going to, all right, we're already thinking about our bye week here in a couple weeks. Where are we going to vacation kind of thing?
Yeah. Just to piggyback off Jake, is like you said, hope. That second half of the Browns game gave us the slightest hope. Now we just have to put it together for 4 quarters. Can we do it? We'll see. Do we have the talent to do it? Yes. But we have to put the talent on the field and just to play all 4 quarters and go out there. And like Jake said, I think the game is evenly matched all across the board. It's just who's going to come out and make that one critical play, or like a strip on Daniels, or an interception, or just make that one key play that will turn the tide to either the Giants or to the Panthers. It's gonna come down to one key play, and whoever makes that key play, I think will come out on top.
Excellent. Steve, I don't have any more questions. Do you?
No, I'm good. This has been awesome.
Yeah, we really.
I got one
for us.
When I mentioned Daniels and Saquon, what are the Giants fans hoping y'all do? What are you going to go to free agency and get a quarterback, or get it in the draft? Same thing with the running back. What are the fans wanting?
Go ahead, Steve.
I think it depends where you find the Giant fans. And here's what I mean by that. If you go on Twitter, I think it's evenly divided. I think half the fans have made their decision on Daniel Jones. It doesn't matter what he does.
Mm-hmm.
He sucks. He was never good in the first place. Blah, 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 blah. Gettleman's an idiot. He sucks. We never should have drafted him. And then you have the other half of the fans that it's like, it doesn't matter. Everything's gone against him. Nothing's his fault. It's not his fault. He had the coaching and all these offensive coordinators and blah, the list goes on.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's quite as dramatic with Saquon, but I think Saquon's had listen, after his rookie year, it was generational. His rookie year was insane. The guy he was ready to be on the cover of every magazine, especially because it was in New York. And then the 2 years that followed with the injuries, and even when he tried to come back valiantly from injuries, listen, your first year back from ACL, there's only been one guy in history that's really killed it. That was Adrian Peterson. And he talked about that. He's like, I was trying to be Adrian Peterson. Other than that, we all know it takes 2 years, but it was so frustrating as Giants fans last year, watching him tiptoeing and not having the same acceleration, not hitting the hole hard. Also having one of the two worst offensive lines in football. I say two because it's debatable. Some people say Cincinnati last year, whatever, it doesn't matter. You guys had a bad offensive line. We had a rough offensive line. So how much of it was really Saquon's fault? I think the fans are divided on both. And then when you get off Twitter, I think people tend to be a little more rational. And I think most Giants fans want the team to be successful. I think most Giants fans are Giants fans first and foremost, before they're Saquon fans, and I think that's where Giants fans tend to be a little bit different than maybe some other NFL fans. Is 9 times out of 10, we're fans of the Giants first. And I think there's just a lot of fair weather around the United States. That's, Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
You're a Giant fan first. So I think people are ready to win. But I both of those guys have shown they are not able to stay healthy either. And it was a famous New York Giant who once said the best ability is availability. So it's a weird time for Giants fans because we're hungry. We want us to have a great year. But some people are very smart as well. And they're like, listen, if we somehow, some way, as stupid as it sounds, we're to win 10 games and win a wild card, crap, that sucks. Because is Daniel still really the guy? And then we're not going to get a good draft pick and blah, 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 and there's no Russell Wilson in free agency, right? And you're not trading for, so I think a lot of Giants fans are just a little nervous this year. Like, we think we got the right coach and GM, we're building a foundation, but it's a very painful thing for a lot of people to talk about Saquon and Daniel because we had so much hope for both of them when they were drafted,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Real quickly, let's wrap it up. Predictions for Sunday, guys. Let's go. Let's go around the table here. Give us your prediction for Sunday.
Jeez, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think it's gonna be 14. No, let's go 21. What? 21-19 Panthers.
Ooh.
21.
I honestly think it's gonna be closer than what people, especially for me at least. I think it's going to be closer than what I want, but I think, like I said, I think we're evenly matched. That's why I said 21-19, because it's going to come down to one play. If we're ahead and you guys are coming back, then we have to stop you, and it could be that play in the fourth quarter, stopping you from coming back and getting that touchdown going ahead or getting that field goal. And 21-19 Panthers.
Jacob?
As a fan of the Panthers, I want to say we'll win, but in my pick 'em, I picked the Giants just because I have zero faith in this team and at least all in rule.
You sound like a Giant fan.
Yeah, trust me.
The pain in your
just been,
face as you say that is just remarkable.
It is. I picked the Panthers to beat the Browns going against Brissett. I mean, there's no way they can let that happen, and they just crap the bed. I'm hoping they come out with some more juice, but they gave up 20. They gave up 24 points to the Browns. How many points did y'all score against the Titans? Was it 21-20?
21-20, correct.
Okay. So let's go Let's see. 17 Panthers, 21 Giants. If I'm going as just what I think's going to happen as opposed to a fan, I want the Panthers to win 42-0 so I can sit back in the second half and just enjoy beverages and laugh and joke and not have to stress over anything. So
I'm just gonna tell you, you guys win 42-0. You ain't coming back on this show.
fair enough. Fair enough.
That's good for me.
Go ahead, Steve. What do you think?
I also think it's going to be a close game. Listen, Tennessee is going to be the best defense we play in probably the first 5 weeks. I think the average fan doesn't realize how good Tennessee is. And that's even after their Pro Bowler Landry going down for the year. Tennessee has some insane defensive players on that team. They're like all pro level players. So you guys definitely don't have as good of a defense as Tennessee. And quite frankly, neither do we. But your offense is better. I'm convinced of that. I mean, yes, Derrick Henry, but listen, I think we're going to have a tough time with your offense, but I think we'll be able to score against your defense. So for me, I'm hoping we win. If we win, I see it like 31-28. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than people realize. I think your wide receivers are going to get open against our secondary. I think McCaffrey, if we think about your passing game, I think we'll bottle him up. I'm not worried about him running against us at all. I'm worried about him catching the ball out of the backfield against us. I think that's where he's going to potentially destroy us. So listen, I can see Baker passing for 300 yards against us because he'll get out of the pocket. He'll move that pocket. I think I'm not worried about your offensive line at all, but it doesn't matter. I think Baker's going to help you guys pass against us. And that's what I'm worried about. So I think you'll score in the air. And if Thibodeau has a chance to play, he did some light practicing today. He was out there on the field, but man, without our two premier edge rushers, our two premier young edge rushers, Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau, I'm worried about him. But I think our offense is going to have a good day too. So if we win, and I'm hoping we do, I see it like 31-28. I think you guys are going to score. I think you're going to have a good day against us, but I'm hoping we score too.
Okay.
All right.
I am of the same belief as Steve. And Steve brought it up. Something that's concerning me is Baker Mayfield moving that pocket. If we can't contain him, that's going to put a lot of stress on our secondary, and our secondary seems to be the Achilles heel of our defense. And I'm going to have coverage concerns if he has success moving the pocket. He also brings up a good point, and we all agree that Tennessee's defense is better than yours. But within that, there are still some different challenges. So I think it's going to be a fairly busy game. I say 27-24 Giants.
Okay.
All right. Jeeves, the only one going Panthers. Nicely done, Jeeves.
Hey.
In the Cleveland brown orange shirt.
Yeah. There's always got to be one to go with the home team.
So Jeeves, nice meeting you. Nice knowing you, pal.
Yeah, I'm done.
Time for beers.
Yeah.
Hey guys, really, all kidding aside, thanks again. This was great. We really enjoyed talking to you both tonight, and love to do this again, down the road with you guys when they play again. Who knows? Maybe in the playoffs. Who knows? I'm just going to put that out there, pie in the sky. But again, we really appreciate you guys jumping on here with us tonight. A lot of good information. You guys light us some things that I didn't know. So really, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. And please let everybody know this show will be available for download tomorrow on most of the download platforms. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. If you guys want, I can share that link with you as well.
Word.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate you inviting us on. It's always good meeting new people.
Sure
And
is.
yeah, like we said earlier, you can find ours, the Beards Watch, on Twitter, Instagram. I think my personal one's JRoll Nation on Twitter, Instagram, and then Facebook, the Beards Watch Podcast, and then our YouTube. They see me rolling with all our other shenanigans that we talked about earlier on in the pod. But yeah, we'll definitely retweet, share, repost, all that kind of stuff across the platform. So yeah, it's always fun meeting new people. And I think that's one of the weird, cool things about COVID was our pod was down in my basement, and we had to adapt to a form like this. And now I think it's getting some people across boundaries reaching out and, hey, let's join this. And now we got video, so it's not necessarily a phone call stuff. So yeah, man, I appreciate it, and glad you guys reached out. Glad we could make it work.
Awesome.
Yes,
Hey
sir.
guys, good luck Sunday. All right.
Hey,
All right, man, take it
you do the
easy.
same.
All right, guys.
Thank you.